One of the best things about being transgender is actually my job. As a national speaker sharing my story of my transition, I get to travel all over the nation and meet all these diverse audiences. And whenever I go and speak with these audiences, I'm always very clear about how I'll answer any question someone has, no matter what it is. And the reason why I do that is because I think it's important for us to be able to bring down those shields and those defenses around this topic, and to make it more sincere. The one problem with this, or actually not a problem, but one of the more awkward aspects of this is that you sometimes get asked questions that make myself blush, or maybe people in the audience, especially when it's around sex. And I always know in an audience when that question is going to be coming up, because you start seeing some people giggle, you start seeing some people squirm, you start seeing these little teeny smirks, some people whisper, "You ask them, I don't want to," or they write something down and they scoot it over to the next person. I always know when they're coming. And I'm always really excited just because I like to see how people try to phrase it. So if someone asks me, "Do you have sex?" sometimes I answer by just saying yes, and then moving on. Other times I answer with "Do you?" to see if they like to respond that way. Another question that's been a little bit awkward for me to answer is if someone asks me, "Do you go into the men's room or the women's room?" And during those times, I usually like to turn to the women and say, "Ladies, if I were to walk in behind you, would you notice?" And they always usually laugh about that because, you know, looking the way I do, I would not really want to be entering any women's restroom. I didn't even like entering a women's restroom when I wasn't transitioned, when I still was female body. It was a very awkward, uncomfortable place. Plus all the women in there always socialize, or they are doing things with their face in the mirror and then they look at you, and it's a really uncomfortable place to be. I much prefer the men's restrooms where you go in, you do your thing, maybe you wash your hands, and you leave, right? Hopefully you wash your hands. I wash my hands, just so you know. Another question I got asked once, which I don't really know what this person was thinking, is they asked me, "Do you wear a two-piece or a one-piece bathing suit?" And I just kind of looked at him, and I wasn't sure if he was joking, because sometimes I'm very socially awkward, and so I just said, "I wear swimming trunks," and then we just moved on from that. Just know that in most situations when people do ask you questions, I don't think that they're coming from a place where they're trying to bully you or cause harm. It's just sheer curiosity. I always say to audiences, please, whatever question you ask, don't let the first one be about my genitalia, because lots of times the first place everybody always goes is what's between your legs, right? I always say, if you're going to ask that question, then you better be prepared to talk about your own genitalia as well. Because it's very invasive. So be able to just gauge where people are coming with their questions. And if they ask you something that makes you uncomfortable, just say, "I prefer not to answer that," and then move on.